What's going on, Imperials? It's Emperor Cubone here. A while back I did a video determining what the top absolute best HM slave in Pokémon would be. I'm fairly confident in the results, however some people suggested I go further in assisting trainers out there, by highlighting which HM slaves would be the most useful in each of the individual games. That's right, we're going full Mystic Umbreon today as I tell you which HM mules are the best for every specific Pokémon game. Now of course this list will only be for the first 6 generations in which HMs were actually used. Otherwise, if you find yourself in a Let's Go game, I'd say you should use a Pikachu or an Eevee and we'd move on. The criteria for what would make the best HM users will of course include their ability to learn multiple required moves, and when you would be able to find them relative to when you will need access to the HM. Since as cool as it is to fly around on Rayquaza, you would need his services long before you reach Sky Pillar. So, starting in Generation 1 with Red and Blue, we find that there are only 5 HMs, with Cut, Fly, Surf, Strength, and Flash. The first one you'll get is Flash, which is unlocked after beating Brock. However, you don't actually need it until later, which is good, since the actual location for the HM is back on Route 2, accessible through Diglett's Cave, and only after you've caught at least 10 Pokémon. But by the time you need it, the only useful Pokémon you can realistically capture before then is probably Clefairy, or maybe Pikachu or Jigglypuff. Next you'll get access to Cut after going through the SS Anne, which is a little better, since by this time you should have gotten either a Paris or your version-exclusive Grass type, all of which can learn the move, and resist Lieutenant Surge, so it's not a huge drag that you need them to cut your way into the gym. But after you defeat Surge, you can then use Fly, provided you travel to the house on Route 16 to get it. And odds are you'll have a Pokémon that can use it by the time you get there, with a Pidgey, or Spearow, or Doduo. But ideally, you would use a Farfetch'd, since this bird you get from an in-game trade can use Fly and Cut. Now you get the last 2 HMs by going into the Safari Zone. You can grab the HM for Surf and the Golden Teeth, which you trade the Warden for the HM Strength. Now you could have any number of Pokémon at this point to learn these moves, but my suggestion is Slowpoke or Slowbro. This line of Pokémon can learn both Surf and Strength, on top of getting Flash as well. Meaning if you paired it with Farfetch'd, you could get all of the HMs easily covered on just 2 Pokémon, taking you through Victory Road and beyond with ease. And real quick, Yellow version is largely the same, however they decided to give Charizard Fly, which means if you wanted to, you could have your starter be an HM slave, giving it Strength and Cut to boot. Pair that with a Starmie that has Surf and Flash, and you'd have another perfect pair to use through the whole game. Now, Gold and Silver added the HMs of Whirlpool and Waterfall, making water types even more critical than before. But similar to last time, the first gym nets you the ability to use Flash after getting it in Sprout Tower. To me, your best bet for that might be Hoot, which you can get at night. Or in a pinch you could go with Spinarak or Ladybug. But you don't really need it to get through to Ilex Forest, where you have to do the Farfetch'd quest to get Cut after Gym 2. Now here, there's not really a specific recommendation I would give. There's plenty of Pokémon that can cut it across most of the Johto roster. You get access to Strength after beating Whitney, and unlock the Surf HM after you beat Morty. However, you find them in reverse order, with Surf in Ecruteak, and Strength in Olivine, which is actually fine, since the next Pokémon you'll want is Poliwhirl. It's really not that hard to find a Poliwag that you can teach Surf, and in no time you should be able to evolve it into a Poliwhirl so that it can learn Strength. And the next HM, Fly, is obtained in Cianwood, after using said Poliwhirl to surf there. This is when you can teach Fly to that Hoot that had Flash earlier if you want, or maybe it's a Noctowl by now. That just leaves Whirlpool and Waterfall in the last 2 gyms, found in the Team Rocket base and Ice Path respectively. The good news is that Poliwhirl can learn these 2. So with Noctowl and the Poly of your choice, you can cover all of the HMs except for Cut, but honestly, you'd be hard-pressed to find a team configuration where nobody can sacrifice a single slot for this simple HM. And this all pretty well holds true for Crystal version as well. Now, as some have pointed out correctly, Rock Smash was in the Gen 2 games, but not as an HM. That didn't happen until Gen 3, giving us all 8 HMs for the first time. You can first use Cut after earning the Stone Badge and getting the HM from the Cutter house, at which point you'll want to whip out your Zigzagoon. Next up is Flash, which you acquire in Granite Cave after earning the Knuckle Badge. This one is optional, but pretty much any of the early grass or bug types that you undoubtedly caught is compatible with this move, so any old thing will do for now. When you go to Mauville City and get the HM for Rock Smash after beating the gym, be sure to go to the other side of Rust Turf Tunnel to get the HM for Strength as well. You can unlock that one after beating Flannery, but all you have to do is make sure that your Zigzagoon has evolved, or catch a higher leveled wild one, since Linoon can also learn Strength and Rock Smash. And once you return to Petalburg to get the Surf HM and beat dear old Dad, look at that! Linoon can learn Surf too! Not to mention the pickup ability will really reimburse you for the time it spends on the team. So once you head up to Route 119 and fight your rival, they will give you the HM for Fly. But while you're there, you're going to want to pick up Atropius, because after you beat Winona, it can learn Fly, but also Cut, Rock Smash, and Flash. Then all that's left is getting Dive in Moss Deep and Waterfall in Sutopolis, after beating the gyms in those places. But as soon as you're able, you're going to want to grab yourself a Whalmer, since it can take over the Surf and Strength responsibilities from Linoon, and learn Waterfall and Dive. That's right, between Tropius and Whalmer, you have perfect coverage of all HMs in the game. If you have these two Pokémon, you are ready for any experience out in the wild. Plus, if you're going after the Reggies in the post-game, you're gonna need a Wailord anyway. And while we're in Gen 3, the Kanto remakes Fire Red and Leaf Green could pretty much be the same as before. You can use a Clefairy for early flashing and then trade it out for a Starmie later, since it can also learn Surf and now Waterfall. Although you could use a Golduck for that too. The only difference now is that I would highly recommend using a member of the Nidoran family as the counterpart, since it can utilize Cut, Strength, and Rock Smash in whichever form it is, so you don't even have to waste a Moonstone if you don't want. This combination nets you all of the HMs except Fly, but you probably have one that can use that anyway. So, in Sinnoh, let's just go through all the HMs. You go to the Oreburg Gate for Rock Smash, usage after earning the Coal Badge. Cut comes from Eterna City after the Forest Badge. Fly is procured from Veilstone after the Cobble Badge, which seems pretty early for Fly, gym-wise, but is actually quite a long walking distance. The Relic and Finn badges switch between versions, allowing for Surf in one, located in Celestic Town, and Defog in the other, housed in the Great Marsh and Solacean Ruins respectively. Strength can be found in the Lost Tower or on Iron Island, usable after the Mine badge, and that just leaves Rock Climb on Route 217 and Waterfall in Sunny Shore. So, the reason we didn't say any Pokémon is because it's fairly obvious. Bidoof and its evolution are pretty much the perfect HM slaves in any region, but are particularly good here. Bibarel can learn all of the HMs except for Fly and Defog, so just take your pick. Actually, don't teach it Surf either, since that can go to Pelipper. If you could avoid a Wingull altogether, that would be quite shocking, so you might as well scoop one up to use Fly, Surf, and Defog, while letting your Bibarel have Rock Smash, Waterfall, Strength, and Rock Climb. This once again just leaves Cut to be used on any one of your other team members, like maybe your starter or a Cricketune. Or hey, maybe you want to diversify Rock Smash instead. Bibarel isn't picky. And if you want, you can slap Flash on a Luxray or something. It's not required anymore, but you can still use it if you feel like it. As for the remakes, Heart Gold and Soul Silver, it's actually a little different from the last one, since they share all the 8 HMs with Sinnoh, except for trading out Defog for Whirlpool. And personally, having played these games dozens of times, I've often used Quagsire and Krabby to soak up the HMs. You can have Cut, Rock Smash, Whirlpool, and Surf, and Flash, which isn't required, but still, Strength, Waterfall, and Surf again, since you honestly would rarely need Whirlpool and Waterfall at the same time. Or, again, maybe you'd rather use a Golduck, since it can learn Rock Climb in addition to 6 other possible useful moves. That once again just leaves Fly to your discretion. Black and White are next, and they are slightly unusual, since only new Pokémon were available for the vast majority of the game. But even more than that, HMs no longer required beating a specific gym to use. You could use them all from the very beginning if you had access to them, even if you traded a Pokémon over. Furthermore, the total has gone back down with only having 6 HMs, and not all of them are even required for completing the game. You get Cut in Striaton City, where I would say go ahead with your first instinct of using a Patrat, since it can also learn Strength once you get it in Nimbasa City, and Flash, which is still useful, but again, not in HM at this time. Fly comes from Driftvale City, at which point you can use it with whichever flying type you have on the team. That's just up to you. But once you get Surf at Twist Mountain, you should probably teach it to a Basculin. Or maybe even a Simipour, since they can also learn Waterfall once you trudge out to Route 18 to snag it, as well as Dive, even though Dive is completely unnecessary for anything other than self-imposed exploration. If you go that route, you can also teach the water type of your choice Cut, and then have the other 4 moves covered by Golurk, since it can fly. Although honestly, that's kind of a waste of a Golurk. So, if you really wanted to use the best setup possible at the end of the game, you should go with Braviary and Jellicent. Together they cover any possible move you could ever need, even non-HM moves, to get you around Unova effortlessly. Black and White 2 are largely the same, except that past Pokémon can now be used as well, such as Azumarill and Golduck again if you wanted to switch things up. Now in Generation 6, X and Y only had 5 HMs, with Rock Smash still being usable in the field as well. However, badge requirements did return, so after beating Viola, you have to go all the way to Parfum Palace to get the actual HM for Cut, which you can place on a Bunnelby or a Pancham or whichever early Pokémon you've gathered up. And be sure to grab Rock Smash in Ambrette Town, since Bunnelby and Pancham can learn that too. The HM for Strength and the second gym, which is required to beat to use it, are in the same city, so that's convenient, and can go on the same old critter that you've been using if you want. However, on the next route, you'll be able to catch a Hawlucha, which I would highly recommend, since it can also learn Cut, Strength, and Rock Smash, as well as Fly. After you get the HM from the town with the accompanying 4th gym, you can use all of these HMs on this masterful wrestling bird. The HM for Surf is gathered and earned in Shalour City, which can be taught to just about any water type. You're probably fine with anything, but to me, the best might be Clauncher. Not only can it learn Waterfall after you get it on Route 19 and beat Wulfric, but it can also use Cut, if you wanted to leave at least one combat-focused move on your Hawlucha. However, I've realized the Clauncher line is version exclusive, so you can simply recycle an old reliable option, such as Panpour or Bidoof, which are also easily caught right near the beginning of the game. And finally, we come to Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, and if HMs had to go, a remake of the Hoenn region is quite the swan song to see them off. While Flash is not an HM in these remakes, and it is usable in the field, it's even more unnecessary this time around. The way Flash works now, instead of simply being trapped in a small circle while everything else is dark, the whole cave is just slightly dimmer than normal, so you can pretty well get around, especially if you just tilt the screen. But, as before, Tropius and Wailord really do make the perfect pair for covering all of the HMs in the game, so they are still your best bet. Or if you just want to switch things up, you can try and go for a Ludicolo, since it can use most of those HMs as well. So, those are all of the best Pokemon to be your HM slaves in each relevant game. Hopefully this will help you if you decide to go back and play the earlier games. What Pokemon are your best HM slaves? Let me know down in the comments. Also be sure to leave a like, share this video, and subscribe so that you too can become an Imperial today. And we'll see you around next time!